Tell your friends! Tell your friends about Hooks and Ladders, but also about songstudio.ca. You can get all kinds of information about songwriting, tips, and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, like, follow, and subscribe. That's what we need. That's what you need.
Here's another peek at what we did at SongStudio Online last August. Hope you enjoy.
And no, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to most of these questions, which is good, I guess. But no post-secondary school?
I did, yeah. I went to university. I got a
What did you take?
communications and sociology. Yeah. Like, I guess it comes in handy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I did music courses as well, and acting courses, and as my supplemental streams.
Right. Cool. So, and when do odds happen, and how do they happen?
Well, we all don't live in the same place, so how they happen is often complex. But we have a new record that we've just recorded, or over the last, through COVID, finished it off, and waiting to put it out, and we just keep trucking.
Right, but I guess what I meant though was when in your story back then.
Oh,
did the odds like?
I got together with the other three guys in the summer of 1987. So we were all in different bands in Vancouver. All of us knew each other in some way and realized we were all the weird guy in the band that we were in. And maybe that would work as a combination, but also appreciated something about that person musically. Like we're turned on by their instincts.
Right.
And I had just been in a band and traveled around. I went to England to try to get my songs across and tried a bunch of things. And after being in this car crash, which is the end of every band, and thought I'll never be in a band again. So I resisted showing up when the other three said, would you please just come over and play guitar with us and hang around? And I said, no. And finally I went over there, and in that first get together, we wrote 4 songs. So
wow.
you go, I think this is pretty good. I should rethink this. So by the next week I had said yes.
That's fantastic. When the first odds record came out, was that 1990?
We made a couple albums that were just sort of cassette that we sold off the stage.
Right.
I don't know if anybody remembers what cassettes were, but they were these awful sounding little plastic things with tiny skinny tape inside them. And we made those and churned them out and sold them from the stage. And then we made our first released album on a label in 91.
91. Okay. So when it came out, the Jitters were Between Records. That's my band from the 80s. And I played it for the guys in my band. And I said, this is what we want to be.
Oh my gosh.
Like it was, and then they were like, really? And I'm like, yes.
I'm like, really?
Yeah. They all talk like that. Really? But it was, it was such a great record that it was on Zoo, wasn't it?
Zoo, yeah, it was back then the big labels saw Sub Pop and all these small labels, indie labels, starting to take up a larger part of the market. So they decided, let's make our own indie labels. And that's what Zoo was.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Right.
BMG did that. And
then, and with odds, how many records at this point?
Well, we'd done the 2 cassette albums and then the first one, and then we made 3 more in that era. 1 more for Zoo, and then we went to Warner and Elektra and made 2, and then took a hiatus. And in that time, you know, somebody said why, and I said, I think sometimes you just know it's time. And during that time, we did, the three of us that were sort of collaborating, Pat Stewart, the drummer, Doug Elliott, the bass player, and myself, did a lot of work for other people. Colin James, for one, playing in his band. I wrote on 7 or 8 of his records, and produced one. And I started writing for other people because I got a call to do it. I mean, I never thought that I would. I thought, okay, these songs are mine. But and it's a very fortunate thing to happen if it can happen for you. But somebody who inspires you in the first place called to say, I like your records. So I got into songwriting for other people. And I did that for a few years for Warner Chappell as a staff writer in Los Angeles.
And how much of your actual writing was taking place in Los Angeles? You know, were there a lot of writer trips?
Yes, quite a bit. So I did that for, I think it was 3 years, where I would go back and forth from home. So I had a place to go there. The odds manager lived there, and he basically had 2 places to live. So I got one, and I would go back and forth doing that. Tough on the family.
Yeah, definitely tough on the family. And I would think as well, for somebody who has been writing for themselves, to sort of like, how big a gear shift did it have to be to start writing for other people, and what kinds of things would you do to prepare for writing for another personality, another artist?
It's a good question, and I think about it a lot. I think about why I could do it, or what I was thinking, because oftentimes I was surprised at the beginning that someone's instincts were different than mine, and I really wanted the song to go one way, but the other person had their own idea about how it would go, or they had an attachment to an idea that I wasn't fond of. And I realized the most important thing is to make it for yourself. Find the part of you that's the same as the other person, because we are all the same. We all want the same things in life. We want to be happy and fed and have the same travails. So I looked for myself in that person, and the hangout at the beginning was very important, and the getting to know the person and being able to relate was important. And I found that was my way into that world. And even if it was a music that wasn't part of why I was recognized in the first place. For instance, when I got the call to write for somebody, it was because they liked what I did, and they wanted me to write a song for them. And they wanted that thing. But oftentimes when you're doing the collaborative songwriter, you're going into their world and helping them with what they do, a lot of times, or lending an ear. And so it's about finding yourself, because if you're just trying to guess what the other person wants, it ends up sounding like, for want of a better word, bullshit. So you kind of have to, music is about authenticity in so many ways, and about being honest, and people can feel it.
Yeah, right.
So even in, the most commercial of pop music, as they call it, there is an authentic voice in there. Somebody really wants to sing that.
Yeah, agreed. I've never subscribed to the idea that if radio in the old paradigm, if radio plays it enough, it'll become a hit.
Yeah.
That it happened all the time, that radio pushed things that didn't end up landing. They were turntable hits. They got played a lot, but nobody bought it.
Yeah.
I believe people hear on authenticity, as you say.
And oftentimes, and nowadays for sure, and for us in the odds, we didn't care about radio. We didn't care what anybody thought. We were making music, and in with the old Richard Thompson paradigm, that if I like it, then 100,000 other people are out there who might like it. If just doing the math.
Yeah. 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 Right. Right. Just purely. Yeah.
So I did that. I did that for a number of years, and I got to learn a lot in the process from other people, and because that's what collaboration is. And then it was too much for my life at a certain point, just being away from my kids, and so after collaborating, and I was also, as you mentioned in your intro, I had started in 1995 to work on film scores and TV through my friends in The Kids in the Hall and through Brent Butt, who's a comedian that I knew from Vancouver, who hired me to work on or write some theme songs for a show called Corner Gas. And that kind of expanded my scope and brought other people to the table, and I've been doing that since 1995.
And really, in those instances, they were friends who also, admired your work. It was a case of who you know, but also you being you.
Yeah, I put the music out there with my band, and they liked it, and so therefore asked me to collaborate, or asked if I was able to do that kind of work, and I lied and said yes, and eventually I learned how.
Do you tend to do that when faced with something you may not have done before, but it seems interesting to you? Do you tend to just say yes?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bit me each time, but I found that it was the same. I learned it in day jobs. I was working in a mill for pulling lumber off a green chain in BC, which is a common, horrible starter job, manual labor. And you figure, how do I get off this one and get that guy's job over there? I had signed up on the posting that I could do that job, and then they put me on that job, and I'd have a terrible accident right away. And someone would say, no, this is how you do it. And they'd stand in front of me, and you watch as hard as you can about how they did it. And then you go, oh, all right. Okay, thanks. And then you're on to step 2.
Right. It's so funny that is a typical job in BC. In Ontario, we all have to work on Bay Street as our first job, wearing 3-piece suits.
I know, but then jumping out that window,
Well, not everybody has to do that. Those are only the successful ones.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, okay. So writing for other people morphs into writing for film and TV. And how different is it writing, like for you, writing to commission? Like with the kids in the hall would be very specific, I would think, about the music. Not necessarily the score, but if there were songs or anything like that, they'd be very specific about what they wanted.
Yeah, the songs that I've written with the kids, I've done comedy records with Bruce and with Kevin, and these are guys in this comedy troupe. The songs that appear in the shows are like any other collaboration with somebody. They just are interesting musicians. They're not like the people who are here today. They haven't studied music, but they are musical people. So it's about getting their ideas across and translating their ideas into musical terms, and adding and subtracting lyrics to make them work in a song form. So it's essentially the same. And the scoring thing is sort of like, I try to describe it to people, it's a song where all the inspiration is provided for you. So you're looking at a screen and a script, and you're saying, how do I use this as my inspiration? Everything is about what's going on the screen. So you have to complement it in a way that is as an unseen hand. But the great part about it is you don't have to come up with any ideas other than how to complement it.
Right. It's funny because your description of it, the inspiration is all supplied, suggests that it's not the art part, it's all craft, that the art part is sort of taken care of, but it's really not, because a huge part of the art is now translating what's on the script and what's on the screen, and making it into a musical idea, and so there's craft involved, obviously, but there's also that part which is it's just funny because the inspiration's all supplied, and yet you still have to be inspired, you know.
Exactly. And a lot of it is the musical color, and a lot of it is sometimes it's playing against what's happening in order to make it work. And sometimes it's not playing, you know, when someone's asking you to write music for a section and you know it doesn't need it. So a lot of it is training your musical instincts for those situations, and having you stretch all the time stylistically. And I do almost exclusively comedy, but comedy is exactly the same as drama and exactly the same as anything else. Nobody who's good at scoring for comedy makes it funny, makes funny music.
Right.
They write music that complements the scene as if it's really it's really happening, even if it's a sketch that's fabricated. Yeah. Because drama is fiction too. You know, you're serious about the music, and that'll make it funnier.
Thanks for taking a glimpse with us inside the Song Studio workshop from last August. Stay tuned for more.